I was trying to.
It's go time.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, October 30th, 2019 to order. Can we have a roll call, please? Mrs. Larson?
Yes, Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Sprague.
Here.
Mrs. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen.
Here.
I'm here. Mr. Gamble.
He is on his way. He'll be here approximately 6:30.
All right, thank you.
And the meeting has been properly posted. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For item 3, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Sprague. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is community comment. Would anyone in the audience like to make a comment tonight? Any community comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 5, consent agenda. Would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sprague. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is school board announcements. Do we have any announcements tonight? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 7, school board calendar. We have a regular Board of Education meeting on Wednesday, November 13th, 2019 here at the Education and Community Center at 6:00 p.m. and a Board of Education workshop on Wednesday, December 11th, 2019 here at the ECC at 6:00 p.m. and a regular Board of Education meeting here Wednesday, December 11th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. Item 8, reports, presentations, and other school board business. Item 8A is the WASB Business Honor Roll recognition. And I'd first like to say a few words. The Wisconsin Association of School Boards Business Honor Roll recognizes outstanding local businesses that support their schools. And the member school boards nominate businesses which have been supportive of their schools over the past year. Our WASB Business Honor Roll recipients are strong partners of Franklin Public Schools. Each business offers unique opportunities and learning experiences while sharing the common goal of achieving student success. On behalf of the board and Franklin Public School District, I'm honored to acknowledge Crohn's, Ascension Southeast Wisconsin Hospital, Franklin Campus, Aurora St. Luke's South Shore, and Karma Laboratories for their generous support in helping to prepare the students of our community to be our future leaders. And I'd like to invite Ms. Rachel Fredericks, our Community Experience Coordinator, to join Dr. Miller and myself as we recognize these fine business partners, and she will tell us about their individual contributions.
All right.
If you want to try to stand close to the microphone, if you can, that would be ideal. Thank you.
Right. Hi, good evening. Our first, so just to echo what Ms. Evans said, all of our partners that are here tonight have been extremely wonderful to our district, for our students last year and years prior as well. So I'll just tell you a little bit about each company. So first we have Crohn's. So Crohn's is a manufacturer here in Franklin. They have been a wonderful partner to the district for our manufacturing, engineering, business, all areas students. They've had multiple students work as youth apprentices in their manufacturing facility. They've had students intern in their other business areas, hosted multiple tours, have had people come and guest speak. And they've also been extremely vital to helping with our Saber Manufacturing program at the high school that started last year. Is officially launched this year. They even were so generous as to have one of their machinists come in every other day and work side by side with our students in our manufacturing space. And he was allowed to do that during his work time. So we truly, truly appreciate all that they have done for us. And Jesse Bartol is here tonight to come accept this award.
No, it's been a great partnership with the Franklin High School. The kids are excited to come into our work environment. They're excited for us to come into their class. Ms. Pishog is doing a great job with Sabre Manufacturing. They've actually made a couple of parts for us that we use in production every day, and we're going to continue that with that class. So, thank you.
Next we have Ascension Franklin Hospital. So Ascension has been another wonderful partner since the beginning of us having partnerships with the local community. So at their Franklin Hospital, we've had multiple students work as CNAs within the hospital. We've had different students intern within different departments. They host many, many job shadows every year for our inroads students, and also been a part of our Education for Employment team, and hosting site visits, guest speakers, anything that I throw at them, they are happy to help with and accommodate our students. So they've been really, really a wonderful partnership for all of our students, but especially our inroads and our Project Lead the Way biomed classes. So Sheila Gansmer is here tonight to accept the award.
So I appreciate the partnership with Franklin High School. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for our students to get exposure to different healthcare careers and really help to poise them well for their futures. And we love having the opportunity and seeing the excitement, as stated before, and it really energizes our teams. So we appreciate that.
Next we have Aurora St. Luke's South Shore Hospital. So they have been another wonderful partner for our biomed and inroads students. So having multiple students work intern at the South Shore Hospital, site tours as well, guest speakers. Also had a community project there last year where one of our woodworking students created an art easel for their long-term patient unit. And built that for them. So they also have been really great with having a lot of different creative ideas and ways for our students to partner with them. So we truly appreciate their partnership as well. And I know Jeannie and Emily were not able to join us tonight, but we have a representative from the hospital.
Sure. So my name is Anya, and I'm thrilled to accept this award, and as appreciative as you are of having the opportunity for your students, we love having the students at South Shore. I can't tell you how validating it is for our clinicians and for our team members to see their career through the eyes of these bright young minds. So we just love it. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
And last, but certainly not least, is Karma Laboratories, who you all know is manufacturing Carmex. So they have been a wonderful partner to our students as well, being right here in Franklin. They're a great resource for our students. Our students, a lot of them don't know that Carmex is here. So number one, it's a great learning point for them, and they get really excited to hear that. But also we have our first student doing a youth apprenticeship with them this year. We've had students intern in the past with them, do a lot of job shadowing, site visits. We have multiple of their members have become mentors for our students in our Launch Business program as well. So a lot of our business students have gotten some really great career guidance throughout the past few years. So we really appreciate their partnership. So tonight we have Rich and Paul, both from Carmex, here to accept their work.
got that one right. Good idea.
So two things, how much time do we have? Well, first and foremost, thank you, Rachel and Mr. Thompson, for allowing us to be a part of it and generating such high-quality students for us to work with. It's really exciting, and with everything going on in the world, it's easy to get down on it, but when you have such interesting young professionals coming through, it gives us optimism for that. And so, thank you for that and all the support that the board gives the institution. Second, personally, thank you for the refreshing engagement from an institution that hasn't traditionally been a partner with business, and so extending that hand and being actively engaged is really fun to be a part of. So, thank you.
You can stay here. If you could all come back up again, we're going to get a picture of just the award winners together. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay, Carmex can't show you all up, so. Not as pretty as those guys. Okay, perfect, and then Rachel, if I can get you in.
Thank you so much. Okay. Our next item is item 8B, our school improvement plan updates. And we're going to Mr. Cohen, yes?
Good evening. So our school improvement teams have been hard at work since August, really thinking about the work of improvement this year, how it fits into the coherence plan and what it means for improving our schools over the course of the next really 3 to 6 months here. And so under the leadership of our principal team who's here tonight, we've been able to keep moving the work forward, and so we're excited to share some of that information with you. And at your seats, you're going to find a couple of different pieces of information. There's a couple of packets there. One is a copy again of the annual district scorecard strategies. That's the single sheet. That's just to remind you of the report that we gave a few weeks ago, where we were sharing with you those core strategies that were really similar across the district, right? So all the schools are working on those strategies, and so we wanted to remind you of what those were, so you could take a look at those. And then additionally, you have copies of all of the school scorecards that you're going to be hearing about tonight, so that you can kind of look at that information as you're listening to the principals and again, make those connections. And then finally, the top sheet of that packet is some look-fors and provides some things we hope you hear. So things like the connection between some of the strategies and planning at the building level and the district, so making that connection back to the district scorecard. We hope you're going to hear about some of the rationale for the decisions that were made, and then again, what are those strategies that they're utilizing and how are they going to measure progress over the course of the next several months. So those are the things that we're hoping that you're going to hear, and then you're going to engage in some conversation with our principals about. The last thing I'll point out is on that top sheet, you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner, it indicates a starting school for you. So we'll go through 6-minute rotations like we have in the past, but we're going to ask all of you to split up and start at those schools as indicated on that sheet, and then I'll prompt you to rotate. And then finally, to our audience, certainly we invite you to listen in, be listening partners as we're engaging in this work, but just a reminder that it's important that there's dialogue between the board members and the principals, and so we just want to be respectful of the noise level in the room so that that dialogue can occur. So. With that, I would invite our principals to go ahead and move to their boards and the board to start at their schools.
Thank you very much for all our administrators for taking us through that chore. Appreciate it. Okay, we will move on to item 8C, our Community and Recreation Department report with Mr. Anderson. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here to go over a year's worth of growth in our department. You guys have the report that was in the board doc. I just wanted to go over a couple highlights that kind of made up some of the statistics that you saw within that report. Part of the coherence planning that we had was to add senior programming. We've added chair yoga at the library. The first 3 classes that we ran, they barely hit the minimum. The last 3 that we've ran are maxed out with waiting lists. So there's and those are done during the daytime at the library. We've added pickleball at the middle school. That's on Tuesday nights and Sundays. Those are full with at least 20 on the waiting list for each night for open play. The before and after school program, we're at 565 kids enrolled currently. Last year, we had 572 at this point, but you've got to remember that the sixth grade left. That was roughly 35 children that went to the middle school. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about is the Love Thy Neighbor Foundation out of Greendale has picked Franklin as a host site. They happen at Victory of the Lamb Church on Highway 36. It's an education series for seniors to help them stay independent. Their first series that they had was last month, and there was 65 people in attendance for that. So the programming that we're doing for seniors and expanding that during the day has been very well received. The seniors are very vocal. They're giving their surveys and the things that they're looking to do. So I just wanted to highlight some of the things that have happened so far this year and would open it up to questions from the report that was submitted.
You know, I know one of the issues that we have is that we don't have enough space. And, you know, because we have to only function after hours, that's an issue. But I do want to ask you, working with the city, and as your educated opinion, how do they hinder us and how do they help us with our department?
It's an interesting question. Really, we work with the department heads. So the health department, we work with Carol Sabilski because she does all the senior programming for the city. So we've given her a couple of our fitness instructors to run their Stepping On class, Living with Diabetes, to get trained. So there's that part that works well. We've worked directly with the librarian to run the chair yoga class. The problem is that she takes heat for allowing us to come in there and charge for a class because her classes she can't charge for. So her board limits the amount of time that she can give to us. So that's why you see that we only have the one class that happens for the chair yoga. Other than that, there's a fairly decent reciprocity with the departments. The fire department comes in and uses the pool. They'll use the pond for rescue and dive training. We do get a little bit of time on the pickleball courts and tennis courts outside, but I fully know that if we try to not work with department heads and go through a formal request, that's usually no. So if we can tie ourselves into something that is in one of their grants that they have to produce numbers for, it works very well. But if it's something where we're saying, hey, we want to do this, can we use the space, it's very difficult.
And the reason I was asking is, you know, because we are the taxing authority for the rec department, and I don't think the entire city knows that we are sometimes. They don't realize that, and sometimes they mistakenly think the city is taking care of the rec department, and I would agree we don't always get support from the city.
Right.
Yeah.
It's tough with their green spaces, especially the tennis courts and some of the things that way that we'd like to do. Some of the programs that we'd like to bring in, we're not able to do because you can't reserve tennis courts. You can't reserve some of the open green spaces for leagues and things that people want to do in Franklin because that's not their policy to do it. So to try and reserve those things is almost impossible. So it is detrimental to a point. The one thing that you can do, or that we can do, is one-time classes or a series of classes, 3 or 4, but if you try to get into something that's an ongoing for months at a time, the answer is no.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just to piggyback a little bit about what you were asking, I know, I mean, on this report, obviously, this is Franklin Public Schools at the top, but is everything that gets sent out, does it have all that school tie-in, where could we do a better job maybe on the marketing so they know that the schools are the ones that are behind it? I mean, it's good to see that we have more senior citizens engaged in what we're doing, but to maybe help always keep that connection? I don't know,
Yeah, we've actually started to, on the back cover, you'll see on the rec guide, putting school district information, events on it, as that holding place for it. We've never, had an open part where we've said, hey, we're part of the school district. We could potentially look at that. But yeah, the people that come in, we take every opportunity to educate them. And it is confusing, especially when you have Oak Creek Franklin and the Whitnall School District that reside within Franklin, so that whole structure there, can you sign up, when can you sign up? But those questions have died down over the years as far as when you can enroll and are you on a waiting list? But yeah, there's probably things that we could do better with that, and I think it's also confusing that the city lists the rec department on their website. It's great that it refers people to it when they look at the website, but that could add to part of the confusion, that it looks like it's one of their departments.
well, like, community education and recreation presented by, or brought to you by the Franklin Public Schools or something, that they have that tie-in, that they know that, especially with some of the things that we have going on to try and improve the space available for some of these rec programs.
Yeah, and I think, the
Moving
thing that you
forward.
said too, is, everything we put, is Franklin Community Education. We could put Franklin Public Schools, Community Education and Recreation Department.
Just a thought.
Something simple like that, that's a tag on everything that we do. Yeah,
Just looking at the brochure, it really doesn't say anything about the school district.
So this wasn't the second guess, that was just a thought I had, just off the top, like, maybe there's something more we can do from a tie-in standpoint.
I even think, perhaps the colors of your logo is blue, if it were to align with the colors. I think we could work with Mr. Kafka on some ideas. It's a good suggestion.
What are your future plans for next year or going forward?
I think we need to come up with a plan for space. Something that in short term and long term will answer the needs that were identified 2 years ago in the needs assessment that went out community-wide. We're seeing kind of what that told us in the limited amount of additional programming we did was very popular with seniors, daytime. We still have been able to do much with parent-child classes or young adults that live in Franklin. So I think we need to look at how can we do that. The safe school is obviously what needs to happen here during the daytime. And you get into the evening, and that needs to support, obviously, the schools and athletics and co-curriculars first. But there's also that trickle-down effect for community getting into the schools, and also for athletics needing more space within the elementary schools to practice with the limited space they have at the high school. So there's a huge trickle-down effect that if we were able to get some space for our department and pull some of the fitness classes, some of those things into a separate facility, you would be able to, the trickle-down effect is open up some more space for those other groups that really should have more space.
Well, what about our private entities in the community? There's other gyms, and our seniors can go there.
Well, the problem is that they also program out of the gyms, and that's what we're running into with the partners that we listed in here, is that their core programs that they run, they've got some time, but they don't have a lot of time to give out to us. They believe in what we're doing and we're partners with them, but we can't expand programming that way with them during the day. Gymnasiums in our district are at about 100% capacity in the winter months, and it is everywhere in the district. So even to try and get gyms would be difficult to do it. Innovative doesn't have a gym. Some of the other places, the Indian school and things, they're all running their own programs right now.
Their own programs that don't involve seniors, or?
That don't involve seniors?
Yeah, is that what you're saying? They're
Well,
not.
it's not just for seniors, it's for everybody.
Right, and, yeah, and something that we would look to do, I'm not necessarily saying that we would build a gym. I'm saying that if we were able to do something smaller that could accommodate the groups that we've identified, would free up gym space, because those current programs in the evening are tying up gym space.
I think something also to kind of help combat the perennial theme of the us and them, when we talk about the school district and the city, is to kind of keep getting that feedback about what they think of the programs, but to also educate on how everything's all tied in and the things that we are doing to provide space for the community and let them know that it is coming under the school's umbrella. And that if we can work together with the city to help satisfy or resolve some of these problems, that then we can help, we can kind of get some support from the groups that are using this from outside the district to kind of push back to the city a little bit and say, well, let's work on something together and figure this out. So I think it's all part of the education piece. So I like what Judy said about, maybe we look at doing a rebranding and something we can tie in more to the district, but then also keep getting that feedback with the surveys and making sure that they understand the funding and how everything works and how we're trying to solve the problem with the space on the roof.
Yeah, and like you said, you've got every demographic in Franklin wanting space. And you've got 7 schools, and it's the place they come to. You as a board have made policies that allow these taxpayers to actually use the facilities for free on most occasions, which doesn't happen in a lot of districts. So, I mean, it's a unique opportunity that sits here, and for them wanting to use it more is a good problem to have. I mean, if they were sitting empty every night, there would be a problem, but the usage throughout the district it grows every year. I mean, you see it on here, and you look at the support the custodians give, the administrators that sit behind me that understand that there's going to be programs going on at night, and classrooms may not be perfect the next day. I mean, it all goes into that, but like you said, to let people understand that that's all part of a school district, the bigger picture from a lot of other departments is a huge selling point, I think.
Anything else?
How would we fund extra space?
Pardon me?
How would we fund extra space?
Over the years, we've built a fund balance that was allowed by the board a lot of years ago, and we've collected money when we've had a fund balance. So obviously there is no referendum, there's nothing. It would be the money that we have in our fund balance and to see what that potentially could build.
How much space does city have now for seniors? They have a senior space, right, in the old city hall? Do they?
That's a county meal site that they serve meals out of. That's not dedicated to seniors. And I'm not saying this would be a dedicated senior citizen building. I'm saying it's going to offer them programming. So they've got a county meal site that comes in there. Other than that, you've got their monthly meeting that they do at a restaurant, but then it's the senior living places that they meet, and to try and run programs in there is very difficult. You can get some people out of each building, but typically they like to get out and do something, and that incorporates with when their meal site is, to do something before or after that is their day out. But the city doesn't have any dedicated space for seniors.
Well, what you're talking about is an extra facility for the rec department. Again, seniors are very important, believe me, but you're just talking about a facility for the rec department, so the rec department can then do their own scheduling of that facility. And I just remember from years past, having to wait for a yoga class to get out of a gym so I could have 6th graders practice at 8 o'clock at night, so the yoga class could be in the facility in the gym, that would free up gym space,
Correct.
so.
Yeah, it would be a multi-purpose facility, different size spaces, different size flooring that could accommodate some fitness classes, some senior programming, whether it's just open for cards. It would, a bunch of programming that we know we need to do that we haven't been able to do. And it told us that in that needs assessment that we did citywide. So we know what we're supposed to be doing. We levy for it, but we don't do it. We don't have space to do it, and for a myriad of reasons, but they're all good. I mean, it's because schools come first. So realistically, to build something like that, you're right, would benefit everybody in the city, whether they take a class there, but it might free up gym space for your 5th grade team that's now able to practice at 6:30.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. 8D is our 2019-20 budget approval. Mr. Milzer, did you have anything you want to say?
Sure.
Okay.
Tonight we have the 3rd draft of the budget. On the previous drafts, we were working with estimates that we had put together last March. And now we have our actual staff that we'd hired for these positions and covered any of the other changes that have occurred. In this draft also, we changed the account structure for 6th grade to match the middle school account structure, so it moved all of those expenses from one group to another. It was a big change, but one we needed to do. The good news is we will receive approximately $62,000 more in equalization aid. We'll receive about $267,000 more in per pupil aid, and the tax levy increase will drop from an estimated 1.9% to 1.5%, or about $15 per $100,000 of assessed value. We were also able to include the full cost of the Forest Park Community Custodian in the budget, and we have two new grants, the Transition Readiness Grant at $30,300 and the Enhancing Social and Emotional Skills Grant for $24,000. So overall, it's an excellent budget for Franklin. We were able to lower the tax effect, contains all the programs we talked about, and it has the funds in there for the purchase of land for the future. So the board would just need to adopt the budget. The one labeled 2019-20 draft number 3, budget adoption, 2019-1030, updated 2019-1030, and then we can certify the tax levy to the city by the due date.
So I'm looking for a motion to approve the 2019-20 budget draft number 3. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Larson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gamble. Do we have any discussion on the motion?
Jim, I have a question, please. Could you speak a little bit about, speak to about the 4K program and how, when we were bringing that online, we were going to have the taxes come in at a certain level in year 1, but then with the grants that were going to kick in, there was actually going to be a decline or a dip in year 2. Can you just talk a little bit about that?
Right, when we did the modeling of the program, we were using conservative numbers for the amount of students we'd get as well as for the amount of funding we'd get from the state. And that's exactly what it showed, that in the first year it might use a little bit of taxing authority to get it going, and then it would reduce taxes every year after that. And at this point, we know we've got the grant from the state, but we don't have a dollar amount for it. But from all indications, there are no other districts that have received the grant, so we should get the full amount of the grant per student, which is what's in the budget, which is more than we thought we would get before. And that's why the tax increase isn't at the level that we estimated that it would be in the first year.
Oh, so the grant's already included in what we're looking at?
Right, they've told us we're getting the grant, and we're looking forward to the full amount of it, and I think when we did the estimate, we might have done half of the amount, because if one other district applies and gets accepted, you'd be down to half. They just have a static amount of money that they divide up.
Thank you.
What line item would I find how much money we lost to school vouchers under? Is that included in this?
It would be, it wouldn't be recognizable. It would be under the 430,000 open enrollment post-secondary options line.
Okay, I know what the amount is, which is $310,748.
Right, I think it was about $109,000 more than last year.
Yeah. I just don't understand why it's that much more this year. Do you know why?
I don't know why entirely. I would think there would be more participation in the program, and I believe those schools get a higher degree of funding for special ed than public schools do. So that could factor into it.
Any other questions?
I guess I wanted to know what the change in staffing was. I don't know if, yeah, you could give me just a guess. How many more staff we have now than we anticipated? You need to have a good number, a precise number.
A precise number? It can be in a ballpark.
It can be in the ballpark.
All right. So from the May report, right, which projected we'd be up about 13.5 FTE, I'd say the most significant change due to an enrollment increase is in 6th grade. And so we did add a 6th grade team of teachers to address the enrollment there. And then we had some minor adjustments in the exploratory numbers. So it really did not change drastically over that May projection, except in those areas. And I'll do the enrollment and staffing update at the upcoming meeting.
So we're funding more staff than we anticipated. Is that what you just said?
In sixth grade in particular, yes, due to the enrollment numbers.
Okay.
In order for us to balance again against the recommended class size policy that we have in place.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Right. Hearing none, we had a motion by Mrs. Larson and a second by Mr. Gamble to approve the 2019-20, what was the name of the budget? Draft number 3 of the Franklin Public Schools budget. Can we have a roll call, please, Mrs. Larson?
Mr. Gamble,
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen,
Aye.
Mrs. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Sprague.
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Lewis
Aye.
and Mrs. Witkowski.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Milzer. Okay. We will move on to item 9, school board liaison reports. 9A is personnel and policy 5362, evacuation plan for early dismissal due to emergency conditions. And the administration is recommending the elimination of policy 5362, evacuation plan for early dismissal due to emergency conditions for the following reasons. The Board of Education is required by Wisconsin State Statute 118.07 to adopt a safety plan that contains the same information found in policy 5362, and WASB does not require or recommend an evacuation plan for early dismissal due to emergency conditions. Dr. Miller, did you want to add anything to that? Okay, therefore, I'm looking for a motion to eliminate policy 5362.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lewis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to 9B, Personnel and Policy 6611, Minimum Class Size Standards, High School. The administration is recommending the elimination of Policy 6611, Minimum Class Size, for the following reasons. The policy is outdated, last reviewed in 2004. WASB does not require or recommend a minimum class size policy. Any references to class size should be included in policy 4240, class size, and the intent of the language in policy 6611 is found in the class size policy. Mrs. Ellhausen, do you have any comments on class size?
No, I think you've summed it up pretty well. Again, the review of 4240 incorporated much of the current practice and protocols around class size, and so this is, the language captured in 6611 is really found in there.
Therefore, I'm making a motion to eliminate, I'm looking for a motion to eliminate policy 6611. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gamble. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Larson. Is there any discussion?
I have some discussion.
Sure.
So when I was first saw the title of this, I'm like, okay, minimum class size, and then I kind of read it, and I can see why it's being eliminated. There really isn't a whole lot of meat on the bone, but I remember, so then I brought up the class size policy referenced in here, and I remember us going through this and the reasons for this, and in retrospect, I think maybe we were really focused on maximums and what should we do if they get too big. And I remember a discussion when my daughters were going to school here, and that they were going to run a class, or actually they weren't going to run a class, and I think it was AP Music Theory, because they were told there weren't enough kids that were going to be in it, and that you need to have 12, I think it was, in order to run the class, and they weren't going to do it. And because it was already in every other class every other year class anyway, and so now that the year that one of my daughters wanted to take it, now she can't take it. And it was a big to-do, and ended up running it, and they had enough kids to do it. But I figured for sure in this class size policy, minimum class size, that there would be some numbers as to what the minimum class size is. And it doesn't say anything about that, so then I looked to our regular class size policy, and we're only dealing with maximums here. So do we have anything from a minimum standpoint that says if kids want to sign up, I mean, we know our class book is, you know, the size of a university, and so if we get 3 kids that sign up, what guides that? I mean, there's some language in here about what they would do, but I guess there's really nothing from a number standpoint when, in the practical application of it there was a number on it. So if someone could just enlighten me on that and see if maybe we should, maybe not tonight, but if we need to look at the class size policy to incorporate some of that in there.
Yeah, I'll just take the historical piece, and then I'll let Mrs. Allyhausen
Sure.
take it forward from there. It used to be 15, that was the
Okay.
number.
15.
And that became kind of impractical in terms of what we wanted to or needed to do for kids. So we no longer use that number.
Okay.
It was taken out. But moving forward, and I'll let you explain.
But where was
how
the
we-
15? Was that in a policy
It
somewhere?
was in policy. It used to be the number 15.
Before
In this policy?
2004? Before 2004? That's the last time it was revised. isn't it?
Yep, I think so. I mean, I can double check I have that really old binder in my office.
Oh, just-
But that's the number I remember as the HR director as being the number. You had to have 15. But there were instances where you would run a class with 12. But when you had 15 sitting there, you were kind of prohibited from doing it. So any one number makes it difficult for us to make these important decisions that we need to make for kids. So if you want to take it from there.
Sure. I think what Dr. Miller just said is an important piece. And again, this was very isolated to the high school, and class size applies to more than just the high school. We certainly had a class size discussion even around 4K with the implementation of that program. On average, it's 18 or above. Within then that maximum range sets that desired state. There are certainly classes that will typically fall to the high school level that we might run below 18 because they're either a capstone type of course and we want that opportunity for students, and need to make sure though that it's balanced against those constraints that fall in that first paragraph of the class size policy. Do we have the facility? Do we have the staffing for it? Is it within the budgetary considerations? But it could be that type of class, or a very specialized class that maybe we've just started that we want to seed in order to get moving through the course approval process that teaching and learning takes. Teaching and learning also takes a look at classes that we want to offer kids but don't generate that interest, and should they operate on an every other year basis, or where should they fall, so that we are not in a predicament where children have signed up and now we have to say, oops, sorry, we can't offer that. So that burden is on us to make sure that we've set the programming so that the staffing allocation is there, as well as the support within the budgetary resources for it. But we generally hover around that 18 in order to run. The other thing that's important to look at is drop rates. When we're paying attention to, particularly, again, those high school or secondary courses in terms of how many sign up versus how many might drop, so that we know where to land from a responsibility standpoint.
And the first paragraph in this covers enough on it to allow you to make those decisions.
As does the other guidelines, particularly when you look at 3. Like, we have that student interest, and is there another way that we can stack or concurrently teach or handle that class in a different way? And then again, responsibly come back to the way we program and make sure that when we set courses, we're responsible to be able to actually offer them to kids when they sign up in that interest level.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other discussion on the motion to eliminate policy 6611?
I wonder how often it comes up where there's a class that wouldn't happen because there's not enough kids to take it? Is it once a year? Is it once every 5 years? How often does it happen?
It happens typically every staffing season.
Keep in mind, the book's this big, there's lots of choices, you know, so kids can only be so many places in a day.
Sure.
But, yeah, it does happen, where then we might offer it every other year.
But at those times, we make a decision based on our needs at the time or what we have at the time, but there's no minimum number. Is that?
Right, so we have to staff within a budget, so it's not an open checkbook for as many teachers as you want. So it's like you have this much FTE for math, so what courses are you going to offer, you know, based on this many teachers? And we would add teachers if we had enough kids, you know, to open another course, but we may not if we don't. We have to stay within budget.
We also have to be practical in terms of staffing it, so hiring a 24% family and consumer science teacher isn't responsible either to the kids from that interest level. So Mr. Volo and I spend a lot of time together, as do Mrs. King and I, to make sure that where we see the student interest, we balance against all those variables and are responsible. And then if we do have issues where, gosh, this course just keeps coming, then we need to involve Mr. Reuter to make sure that we have balanced programming and aren't so diversified that we can't offer 7 courses as a result of the way we've set that program guide in one area. It's quite a big puzzle, but again, you know, from a standpoint of staffing, we stay around, do we have 18? And again, we're considering drop rates into that mix. But outside of that, is this a capstone course? Is this a specialized course? Is this a end of series course that we need to maybe be flexible around that number?
And that's kind of how classes get to be run every other year with regularity, because then you can bunch them a little better.
Absolutely.
So they know that this is only when it's running, so that helps,
And then when you get to the elementary level, you're really looking at the number of sections in a building and trying to probably, to your point, Mr. Nielsen, play more with the end of the maximum to make sure we're not exceeding that. But that's also where you end up then, because some buildings are 2 sections, some buildings are 3, with variation within one grade level.
Any other questions or comments?
It's my favorite time of the year.
All right. Hearing none, then we had a motion by Mr. Gamble and a second by Mrs. Larson to eliminate policy 6611. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next. Lost my place. Okay. Skip 9C, board liaison reports. Do we have any board liaison reports tonight?
I do. I met at a meeting a week ago or so with the Franklin Educational Foundation. We talked a lot about the Style Show, which is coming up November 7th in the high school commons at 6 o'clock. Please feel free to buy tickets and go. And we also talked about obtaining a CNC lathe for the high school and approved a grant for that. And also had a meeting with Mr. Reuter. We talked a lot about the new course approval report that will be coming the next meeting. And he talked about how last year it was a bit cumbersome going over that, approving all those because we did it singly. So I thought maybe I'd bring it up for discussion with the board on how we may be able to do that differently this year, or if we want to do it differently this year. Maybe Mr. Reuter could help. I obviously wasn't here.
Well, I remember that we had Forest Park Middle School first, which lasted about half an hour. And then the high school reports lasted about 45 minutes to almost an hour, going individually through those.
Yeah. I can provide a little
Yeah,
context.
you wanna go
The
through that?
intent is to get you that report in a more timely manner than just the natural release of board docs. So early next week, you'll see that report, and it'll be broken down by discipline and what we're asking for approval. I can say that the big piece of that is we're coming out of a science review, so there will be an overall report around K-12 science programming. There's not many changes at the high school level. There's redesign of some courses, so we'll be looking for that approval and a change to the freshman experience, but we're looking at a change with K-8 programming. And then from there, we're looking to add a few courses in music at the high school level, a course at the high school level in Spanish, and there will be some discussion looking at revision of existing math courses and elimination, and I'll provide some context and data within the report that you'll be well versed on prior to the board meeting, and then a change in credit allotment to one of our construction courses. So that's kind of a preview, so that as you think about how do we want to go about approving those courses or not approving, but thinking about that through those lenses and what's the most efficient yet effective way for you as a board.
So this is a good way for our liaisons to work, because we don't have committees, so that we can give consensus on how we want to report to work. Rather than going through this, what we went through last year, getting your report
Yeah.
earlier, and then being able to ask questions if we give consensus for that.
And I might just add too, there will be not a formal presentation by each discipline. The report will be pretty comprehensive. That'll give you the historical background of the two-year process to where we got with data and the reasons why. Ms. Sundstrom from my department and I will be sitting there, and we'll literally ask you what questions you have related to the report. There won't be a slideshow, and big teachers may be in the audience that were part of the decision-making process to chime in if there are questions, but it won't be like last year where we went and had 75 slides, and we did have a unique situation with adding a grade level and all of that at Forest Park. So just so you're aware of kind of a preview of what's to come.
So is that what you're looking for then, consensus from the board?
Yes.
Is the board agreeable to, I know,
I think more information earlier is always good, absolutely.
okay, sounds like
Okay.
that's a plan.
And then as far as approval process, would you like to do that as a collective all programming or discipline?
Is there a natural grouping?
Yeah, as I outlined, it's really science, music, Spanish, math, tech ed. So there's,
So maybe if
but
we
there,
just-
there's small chunks versus large program shifts, K-12, to, we're changing credit allotment in a construction class.
Actually, we've done it grouping the past couple of years.
That makes sense.
It's been
Okay.
done.
Why
in
don't you
group.
group them for us in your report?
Yeah, it's built out by discipline, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Are you finished?
I am,
Mr.
thank
Stein?
you.
And I'm assuming you're emphasizing change, right? Drop this, add this.
Correct.
Not just,
Elimination, addition, or revision would be the
Okay.
three themes.
okay.
I met with Ms. Ellihausen for a personnel, just a short personnel liaison meeting, and she informed me that professional development days continue to offer wellness opportunities during the lunch hour. So this past Friday, during lunch hour, there were cooking classes, healthy holiday meals, and chili, is that correct?
That's upcoming.
Oh, upcoming,
That's
okay.
upcoming. We had yoga,
Okay.
guided meditation, and another lunch and learn. Mhm.
Okay. And then through the rec department, there are staff-only fitness opportunities, such as with spinning and yoga boot camp. And then you will be offering Forest Park Middle School cooking classes, correct? And
Well, we'll be using the kitchen, the wonderful kitchen space over there, and yes, Mr. Anderson has wonderfully partnered with us to figure out where we have some synergy, as he has any of the resources for instructors in those types of courses that we then can offer just for staff. Yeah, it's great.
And you also shared that you started your building hours, and she'll be visiting the buildings, each building 3 times during the year to connect with staff, and that's going very well so far, right? Yeah. And also the meeting with the staff to discuss the school calendar has already started, and you had a meeting today prior to this meeting. And that will be coming to the board in November. You're almost sure of that.
I am
You are
almost
sure,
sure.
yeah.
Yep, we had a very
Yeah.
productive meeting. We'll be sending out a quick survey to staff on providing us some options around, well, providing input around some options we have, and then we meet again next week, so we should be able to make that timeline. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other regular liaison reports? Okay, then we'll move on to school engagement and community engagement visits. Do we have any of those?
Well, I think Judy and I can't recall if there was any other board members at the tailgate.
Yeah, Mike came.
Oh, I was there.
Were you at the tailgate too, Mike? Okay. Yeah, we went to the tailgate. I see there were nice pictures of the
That was
book
this-
fair,
yeah.
but our camera froze that night, so.
It's freezing. It was
It was
the
pretty cold.
Sabre Business Alliance.
Yeah, the Business
tailgate.
Alliance tailgate.
It was cool. Yeah, that was a cold night. I have a couple, if you look in board docs, I popped in a couple pictures there. One of them is, I spent a couple days at the book fair at Pleasant View, that's my liaison school. And while I was there, a couple classes came in for their library time. And one of them was the 4K students. And they're really learning how to come in and experience a library. And they had their story, and then they had to, a cart was moved into the middle, and the teachers were trying to teach them how to divide up into 2 lines. And 2 of them went to one side, and the rest of them went to the other side, and so the teachers had to tell them, well, you know, if you go to the grocery store, you get to choose the lines you want to go in. When you want to check out, well, they're always with their mom, so they sort of understood that, and so they tried to teach them how you want to choose the shortest line to go to, and finally they got divided up equally, but then they were excited to choose their books, and when they picked out their books, the one little girl in my picture that has the blue bow on her head, she kissed her book. She just kissed her book and walked away to learn how to check it out, and that was really cute. And then at the book fair, I was there for conferences at night, and then another day during the day, and it's just so nice to see the parents. I know all the schools have the book fairs, and I've worked them before, but the parents engage with the students when they want to pick out the books. But this year is the first year with tax, and when the kids come in and they realize, oh, there's tax. And some of them understand tax, but then you have to explain tax, and the eyes get wide, tax, and some are mad. You have to explain what tax is, and they're angry that there's tax, and then you have to give them a little lesson on tax, and then the parents forget that there's tax, and you have to figure all that out. And then I had to spend a half an hour with one little kindergartner that came down by himself, and half an hour because he wanted a book that was way too much money, and just half an hour to figure out what book he can have, and boy, that was hard. It was hard, but it's fun working at a book fair. And then the other picture I have in there is a welcoming ritual, and we all heard about those rituals tonight. And it's every day the first grade teacher, Miss Mauerman, at Pleasant View has the students come in, and the students look at the sheet on the door, and it's 1 through 5, and it says 1, I feel, and for the audience, I feel upset. 2, I could feel better. 3, I feel okay. 4, I feel good. And 5, I feel outstanding. And they get to choose 1 through 5 as they come in the door, and she, instead of just saying, well, how are you today? they tell her I'm a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, or 5, and then they start the conversation about why. It's not just, oh, I'm good. They open up to her about how they feel that day, if they choose to, and I just thought that was I'd like to do that every day. Just say, yeah, I'm a 3. I thought it was great. And then today Dr. Miller and Mr. Sprague and I attended the construction of our
Construction 2 class?
yeah, Construction 2 class, the groundbreaking for our house that's going to be built right off of Ryan and Oakwood. And that's really exciting for our students. And trying to think what else we did. Oh, the On Broadway show. A bunch of us
Got to see that.
were at that. And
Great show.
yeah, what I like about that is they play selections that great grandparents could enjoy, and kids, little kids can enjoy too. And they're so talented. The kids are talented. But that's what I did. Anyone else?
It's a Broadway show. Great. Awesome.
Anyone else? Okay. So, agenda. Item D, no, did I miss the treasurer's report? Did I say that?
You did not say that it's
Okay.
available in the
Sorry,
board docs.
going back to E, 8E, treasurer's report is available in the board docs library. So item 10, closed session. I'm looking for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, Sub 1, Sub D, to review district threat of violence drills, and pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, Sub 1, Sub F, to consider enrollment application of an expelled student. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Nielsen?
Aye.
Mrs. Evans?
Aye.
Mr. Sprague?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mrs. Witkowski?
Aye.
Mr. Gamble?
Aye.
Motion carries. We are in a closed session at 7:49. Does anyone need a quick? Okay, we're going to return to open session at 8:22. We have, do I hear a motion from decisions made in closed session? Anyone?
I move to deny the enrollment application of the expelled student presented.
We have a motion by Mr. Nielsen. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lewis. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we will move on to item 11, school board debriefing. Are there any comments from today's meeting? Okay, hearing none. Item 12, future agenda items. We have the Robinwood Elementary School presentations for November 13th, 2019. New course approvals, November 13th. Enrollment and staffing report, November 13th. The 2020-21 school calendar, November 13th. The annual assessment report, December 11th, 2019. The building and grounds annual report, December 11th. And a communications update report, December 11th. And I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. So moved. Motion by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gamble. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, and we are adjourned at 8:24.